Thinking about watching the movie Ghost Boat? Well, then I suggest you abandon ship. Now, this movie was originally called Alarmed. Now, we are talking about Ghost Boat, not Ghost Ship, which was another horror film which came out a good few years ago. This is a 2014/2015 movie, depending on where you are. And it's a relatively low-budget film, and to be fair, it's less of a horror film, more of a kind of supernatural mystery with kind of elements of horror in it. And really it focuses on a character called Sammy, who is this young woman, basically, who's acquitted of murdering her family at the beginning of this movie. And we kind of see a bit of a prologue about what actually happened there. And we're going to get the idea that's going to basically serve as the kind of the core mystery of this story. And, of course, you are right if you think that. And then basically Sammy goes on this kind of boat trip to try and sort of get away from him or recharge her batteries on ship. She goes on this kind of trip with a few friends. And while she's out there, strange things kind of start to happen. And she ends up getting stranded on this boat in the middle of the sea. Although it's not quite the middle because we see plenty of other boats in the background. But whatever. Anyway, she kind of gets trapped on this boat with her and this one other guy. Now, she's kind of trapped in the interior, the cabin area of the boat, whilst the other guy's kind of trapped on the deck area of the outside. And then basically, even stranger things start to happen. Essentially, she's being communicated by this kind of alarm system, hence the original title, Alarmed, I guess. And this basically messages telling her to harm herself and do these kind of sort of certain things to her body. And she's kind of controlled by these kind of mysterious forces. And it ends up being a little bit like Saw in a way, where she's kind of having to do these kind of self-harm things for some kind of reason, which I won't go into. But that's pretty much the movie. That actually takes place the majority of the time in this film, and the majority of the time it is taken up with that kind of plot. So it does drag on a bit. But that's all I'll sort of tell you about the actual plot here, because this is a mystery film and I don't want to kind of give away too much. So let's talk about what is good and what is bad about this film. I have to say this film started out pretty strong. You can kind of tell it's a low budget film because it has that kind of rough around the edges of film sort of feel to it. But nonetheless, I actually thought the central premise seemed quite interesting first of all. And it started off pretty well. And I kind of was intrigued to find out what was going to happen here, basically. Now, you can tell when we see this kind of flashback, pretty much one of the first scenes, that the identity of the killer is hidden. So you know, basically, it's going to be someone that we see in this film. So that's one of the sort of the downfalls of these films, I feel, is that when they deliberately don't show you the killer's face, clearly it's going to be someone that we're going to recognise. Anyway, so the actual first part of this movie, like I said, it opens quite strong, and it has this intriguing premise. And the main character, I forget the actress's name, but the main character, Sammy, her acting isn't too bad as well, so it comes across as fairly good acting for a kind of low-budget film. However, to be honest with you, although it does have some original ideas, I would say, the execution of this film was poor. I'm going to start my biggest gripe of this film, and that is the editing. The editing in this film is awful, absolutely awful. Sometimes cuts seem to happen midway through a scene, and I don't know why they've cut it there. It just seems to go to a certain point and then just cut, and then you think, why is it cut there? And the other thing is that we see flashbacks throughout the film, although there's so many of them, and the way that it's presented, it just kind of literally just goes on to the next scene. You're not quite sure. Initially, are you watching a flashback, or is this happening sometime in the future as you got off the boat? Unfortunately, it's done quite poorly, I feel. So the editing for this film is my biggest gripe. The acting outside of the main character is a bit of a mixed bag as well. There are some kind of some variable performances. I mean, some are not too bad, and there are a few exchanges which feel relatively genuine. I wonder if they were ad-libbed. But there are some kind of lines that are said that kind of quite poor in the dialogue, sometimes comes across as rather trite. The ghostly effects here are kind of fairly minimal. There are some reasonable effects on the kind of where we see scarring on the kind of the main character. That's not too bad. But there's some really cheesy effects where we actually see. We don't actually see her self-harming. We kind of see just blood splattering across the light switch, and it's just stupid. You know, she sticks her hand down this is going to be a mild spoiler, down a kind of a drainage pipe and switches the mincer on, I guess, and just blood squirts across the light switch. It just looks ridiculous. And then the other thing here is this film doesn't really make a lot of sense. I really wasn't quite sure what the point of it was. I mean, when you watch the whole thing, obviously, mysteries are revealed. I'll say that much to it. but you don't really understand why stuff is happening. It's like, what's the point of it? And you even question, was the whole thing a dream? It was just like kind of unsatisfying, I have to say. So this is kind of like your mum's ghostly films that she watches around Christmas time, I guess, is the best way to describe this. But unfortunately, although it does have a couple of good ideas, and I think it started strong, the actual execution of this film was very poor. Like we have this like male ghost, I guess. I don't know why he's there. Who is this guy? I wasn't sure, but it's like, what's his relevance? It's just weird. This random guy with a beard. There's so many things that just think I don't understand why this is happening. And with the poor editing as well, it just comes across, unfortunately, as a bit of a mess, this film. So I really can't recommend this film. It does have some promise, I think. So the people who made this film, maybe, with experience, will get better and make a bit more of a sort of put together film, if that makes sense. But as this film goes, it's not particularly gripping film. It kind of gets slow once we kind of get past this initial act, and it kind of sets into the main story. It's slow, it's confusing, it's poorly edited, and in some parts poorly acted, so with very little special effects. So I can't recommend this movie all that much. I only give this a 3 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.